This week on Peach Shop Makes, I'm going to show you how to make these cantilevered off-axis candlesticks that have really been growing in popularity. And in fact, Modern Dining Table magazine calls them elegant. Southern Living says that they are snazzy. Martha Stewart Living magazine says that they are elegantly snazzy. So if you're interested in learning the techniques and seeing how these things are made, stick around.
Okie dokie, once you got your piece all glued up now, you want to go ahead and mill it down to 2 5/8 by 2 5/8 square. The woods that I'm using are walnut alpi and lacewood. If you're not familiar with walnut alpi, it's basically a man-made product. It's kind of like an MDF. These were some charcuterie boards I made a while back. And you could see what it looks like, kind of sanded up. It's got kind of a nice, unique look. I just had some scrap pieces left from a project and just thought it would look kind of cool for these candlesticks. Right now, I'm gonna go ahead and cut each individual stick. I have a 25-inch piece of stock here, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut them down into 6 1/4 inch increments, so we should end up with 4 separate sticks. So I'm gonna go ahead and chop these on the miter saw, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how we're gonna mark these for the off-center turning. Now, to get this started, like most turnings, we want to go ahead and find center.
Once we find our center, we're going to go ahead and mark a 3/4 inch diameter circle.
And then from there, you want to decide which end is going to be the tailstock end and which end is going to be the headstock, because your points are going to be different on each side. They're gonna match up, but they will just be basically the reverse of each other. So then from that circle, we have this line going across here. You just want to go ahead, put your compass right there on that, and then draw another circle. I'll go ahead and put an animation up that will kind of demonstrate all this so it's not so confusing, because I'm pretty terrible at explaining. So there we go. So the center of our stock is going to be letter A. This point really isn't important or necessary, but we'll call it B. And in fact, this point doesn't get used anymore. And then right here where the circles intersect, that's going to be both points C and D. And then our final point over here is going to be point E. And then once you have your piece all marked out, you want to go ahead and flip it clockwise, end for end, and do the exact same thing. So I'm going to be going in this direction because now this is the opposite. So again, we will mark here and label everything the exact same. Okay, once you have that done, you want to go ahead and mark each end to identify it. This is going to be your tailstock, so I just put a T, and then on this end, just put an H on there. You can maybe make out the shape of the points and see that it makes a triangle around the center point. So that's just what you want to make sure that yours looks like if you decide to make these same candlesticks. So right now we're going to go ahead and put it on the lathe, and we want to start with points A and get this thing turned around, and then we can start offsetting it and turning the rest of the portions. So let's go ahead and get started. So remember, I put the headstock towards the headstock, obviously, and the tailstock towards the tailstock. And again, we're starting in the center, letter A. I'm going to either use a square carbide or just a spindle roughing gouge. Alright, So you can really pretty much set these lengths whatever you want. Start off, we'll go 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 1 and 1/8, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, and I think that's good. So that will leave us about 1/2 here on the end too. Okay, then we just mark them really quick. All right, now we'll go ahead and start on our first off-axis point, which is letter E, and work our way towards the headstock.
Now we move on to point D. Well, once you've finished with point D, you can move on to point C. And once you're done with point C, you can move back to point E to wrap up the base. So depending on how many sticks you're making, once you're done with point E and the base, you can go ahead and move on to your other sticks and just rinse and repeat. When doing any off-axis turning, you want to plunge in with your square carbide bit very slowly and lower your bit as it comes over the top and you start to turn the piece round. And try to stay as straight as possible to avoid any catches. Once each section is complete, I highly recommend sanding because this is about the only opportunity you will have. And you want to proceed with caution because you can bang your knuckles pretty good, so you want to be leery of that.
So now that I have each section cut the way I want, I'm going to finish up the rest of the sticks, and then before I drill the hole in the top, I'm going to go ahead and flip it over, put it in the chuck. That way I can clean up the bottom and put a nice little concave in it so it'll sit flat when sitting on the table. So I'm going to go ahead and clean those up now, and then do the rest of them, and then we can start drilling the hole. Not sure if you guys can see that. That's why I was making that high-pitched rattling noise, kind of like a reed in a piccolo or a woodwind instrument. It was vibrating. That's a simple fix though. This walnut alpi is like MDF. It just soaks up anything that you put into it, whether it's adhesive or finishes, stains, anything like that. So I'll just go ahead and soak it with some CA. Now that we got the base all taken care of, we can go ahead and part off the rest of the waste on top, and I'm just going to clean it up with the square carbide and then use a parting tool to knock it off. can finish that up on the drill press. So as you can see, I went ahead and glued the bottom back on where that piece was cracked. Just need to sand up the bottom, finish cleaning it up. But right now we're going to go ahead and drill our hole on axis point E, and that way when we go ahead and cut the excess off and drill our hole for the copper insert, the hole will be a reference for us to use our Forstner bit, and that way we can line it up perfectly and we won't have any issues. These are a couple 3/4 to 1/2 inch adapters. You can pick these up at Lowe's or Home Depot, any hardware store really, in the plumbing section. I think it just will add a nice little detail to each of the sticks. Obviously it won't look like this, but it'll sit down below like that, so only just this top part will be sticking out. And actually what I like about these is that they are threaded, so you can basically thread in your candle and that'll keep it from falling out and getting too loose. We can go ahead now and take these over to the drill press, cut the tops off and drill the hole probably about 1/2 inch deep, and then we'll press them in, and after that should really be it. We'll get some finish thrown on these and call it good. Now we just gotta press these things in like a glove. Okay, now let's go ahead and put some finish on them.
So there you have it. Thanks for sticking around with me, you guys, checking it out. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, I invite you to go ahead and give it a like, subscribe, maybe share it with some friends. And you can reach me over on Instagram at PeteShopMakes, as well as Facebook and Twitter. Other than that, thanks again, and hope you guys learned something. And if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and feel free to leave them down below. And as always, I will catch you on the next one. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, my brother and I started a podcast. It's called Mom is Gonna Be Pissed. You can check us out here on YouTube or over on Instagram and Spotify, as well as Apple Podcasts. Thanks.